This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. I've said this before in another video, but this is a telly built by a twat, and this one's built by the preeminent sort of telly expert. In some ways, I think they kind of look, you know, the tellies, right? A telly is a fundamentally fairly simple guitar, but in this video I kind of wanted to, I don't know, trying to find where the artistry might be in what looks essentially like a fairly simple thing to build, and compare my horrible amateur work to that of a much finer luthier. Comes down to, in some ways, sort of part selection. So all of the stuff that I did with this telly was basically intended to be cheap. I think I built this for around £400 at the time. The body I bought off of eBay, and I think it's a 3-part swamp ash body, I think. And yes, I finished that myself badly. You'll see even the ferrules are not fully put in, so they didn't fit properly. And then yeah, bits of hardware, I chose like the bridge specifically so that I could intonate it better. The neck was a cheap Mighty Mite neck, which is actually quite skinny. You can see that I attempted to do a relic job myself. I would not recommend you do that on the neck. So I think that was basically I sanded back the finish with some sandpaper and then combined vinegar with steel wool to get that horrible effect. And then I used an earvarner nut because that meant I didn't have to know how to shape and cut a nut. So it ends up being like an okay version of a telly versus, you know, a guy who's dedicated a significant chunk of his life to actually researching what the Telecaster is all about and then sort of set to work replicating. And I think a lot of his guitars are replications of specific guitars that he has seen, right? So if you see these up in close and in person, I think they do look pretty fantastic in terms of, does this actually look like an old guitar? And I would say, for me, mostly the answer is absolutely yes. And not only that, but they feel fantastic in the hand to play. So in terms of tone, I was fortunate enough to get Chris at K-Line to actually one of the things Paul Reed Smith says makes a guitar kind of good is like how much it resonates and sustains. So I don't know if there's going to be a significant difference here. But there is like a it's like a harmony and a resonance to. It's like no, this is fine. But what I feel like is that it's not that difficult to build an okay telly, to build something that actually stands out as being like way better than the pack, is when things start to get interesting, when things are put together, tightly knitted together, so it starts to feel like the guitar is not just bolted together, but is actually put together by someone who knows what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? It seems strange, but it feels less like a Partscaster, a really good telly, and more like something that's been put together well and is actually in tune with itself, which is all getting a bit Steve Vai-ish, isn't it? I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did either sound much better to you? Of course, since filming this video, was able to acquire my own Nacho as this came up for sale at Cordy Music, and this one's again sort of different still to Jake's, and it's got its own vibe going on, and just kind of to me cemented the idea that all guitars are different, and it does have some of the cool things going on, but I wouldn't say it's quite as resonant as Jake's. We did take it to a friend's, both of them, and that friend actually preferred this one to Jake's. I mean, neither myself nor Jake prefer this one to Jake's, but it's still great. And the other thing that Nacho actually said to me was that Jake's would be better because he's got the advantage of that one having been played for, an extra 4 years on top of this, because that's a 2018, this is a 2022. And that kind of leads me to conclude that one way to make your guitars better is to play them more. That is definitely something that I've heard other people talk about, is that guitars that are played for whatever reason start to open up more. Do you buy into that as an idea? And do you think it makes a difference? But certainly I think there's something to that, right? Getting rid of that new guitar feeling and having a guitar that you've bonded with and shaped more with your hands and stuff. I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Anyway, they're all different. Yes, these are put together, Partscasters essentially, right? In the sense that all bolt-on guitars are, but there are differences. I think anyone who's played a bunch of guitars will know that. But of course there are more efficient ways to buy certain things and all of that sort of stuff. And you can get a lot for your money with a Partscaster. So if you're, looking for the best bang for buck thing, then I would say, grab a Partscaster, have a local tech, give it a going over, and see how far you can get with that. I think it's a really good way to learn more about guitars and get a sense of what it's like to actually build these things. But as I said, these are CNC'd from essentially old Nacho personal collection tellies and stuff like that. And then, of course, these pickups are wound to his specs. And, the end result is something a bit different, I think. But when you actually hear them side by side, let me know how much of a difference you hear.